Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is Chris.
On the podcast of Mischief Trust-Snail.
Alliance, assemble. There we go.
It's getting better and better every week.
Every week. A little bit better.
Soon our voices are gonna be like the Power Rangers when they morph together. Like that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
How you doing today? How you doing this week, Chris?
I'm doing good. We've officially shut down for the school year is over.
Mhm.
Graduation has been held. So now it's just 4-day work weeks, longer work weeks being 4 days, but get my Fridays off, so I got 3-day weekends all the time for foreseeable summer. So just kind of easing back into a summer mode.
Mhm.
But it's actually no humidity the past 3 days. It's sunny, so I'm kind of soaking up time outside when I can.
Nice. That's what you like to hear.
How about you, my friend? How you kind of talked offline. You've kind of had a busy last couple of days.
Yeah. I've been doing a bunch of podcasts, and then I want to thank anybody that even if you tuned in for a bit, we did our charity stream. We raised $400 for a great cause, so thank you very much for that. All the help is appreciated. But yeah, so lots of podcasting. Work, because I work for Interior Health, has been nuts. So there's a lot of times where, and these guys will know, I got to reschedule of like, oh, you're working, no, you're not working. And then it's like, no, we actually do need you. So luckily, I kind of have some time off here for a few days to rest, but yeah, and it was busy too because over at GeekVerse, check us out there. We're going to talk today. We had the PlayStation 5 reveal, so it was a whole we were on stream for about 3 hours. So it's been a busy past few days, but I'm excited to be talking about some Marvel stuff today because we got some little news, but then I think I'm more excited about what we got near the back half, our Facts and Fiction and our comic book club, because today's the start of that. So
Yeah, we got some good stuff to talk about. So.
Yeah.
But before we forget, do you want to do some of our network plugs?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So yeah, we're Marvel Alliance. We're every Monday, every Tuesday is DC Alliance. Wednesday is World's Finest True Believers. Chris, your show. What's happening this week?
This week we got Tim from DC Film Squad cast coming on, and we're kind of doing a twofer, but they tie in together. We're looking at Countdown to Infinite Crisis and the OMAC project. So it was a great discussion.
Oh, very nice. And then yeah, Thursday this week will be Slice of Film. I believe that is my episode. I think I can tease I'm on there for La La Land with Katie. She had watched it for the first time, and it's I'm a notorious musical hater. My fiance loves musicals, and I'm always trashing on them because I can never just get into the moment. Like I can never be fine. Like imagine if you were just talking now and then we broke in a song. I can never buy it. So when I saw La La Land, I was like, oh, here we go, another one. And then I loved that movie. So you can find out why on Thursday. If that I'm 99.9% sure that's the one. Either way, Katie's bringing a slice of film. And then Friday superhero discussions. Greg and Travis are continuing their review of Superman animated series. I think this week is 6 to 9 because they did 4 to 6 last week. So I think it's 7-9. Sorry. So yeah, it's good. I gotta catch up because I'm watched them for not the first time, but the first time with my daughter, and the first time for a while. Because honestly, I could say I think the Superman animated series is the one I've seen the least, but I'm rewatching it now because they're covering it, so it's a good show. And yeah, as always, the links are down below for our Twitter, our Facebook, for our social media. Also, just probably go to the Geek Ultimate Alliance social media because you can find everybody there: Star Wars Alliance, Marvel Alliance. Check out Star Wars Alliance; they dropped their first episode last week, so that's a bi-weekly show every Thursday with Slice of Film. And then on Patreon, you can get episodes ad-free and early. I know Greg and Travis have the benefit of recording early because the show's already out, obviously, right? So they got their covered. So I think this week they're going to be dropping 2 episodes early on Patreon, so you can get that. We just recorded a Flashpoint review. That's going to be early. I think that's going to be coming out maybe sometime in late June, but that's going to be up there. We had Lisa from I Love That Movie on there, and Katie and Greg and myself. So Patreon, you can support us there, or you can get stuff ad-free and early. So lots of good stuff. And then in the future months, we'll be pumping that out more. I think I've hit everything. Have I missed something, Chris?
No, I think I know Travis and I are looking at Patreon episode since I just finished my DC animated universe rewatch. He wants to get me on. We'll do kind of a Patreon episode. So we're still working out the details of that, but that'll definitely be a Patreon exclusive.
And that's why you follow us on Twitter, because then you get all those nice updates. So what do you want to start today? Do you want to start the news, or you start with the main topic? Because I guess obviously if they've clicked on the headline or looked at the details, they probably know one of the main topics. But if they don't, I guess we can reveal what we're talking about today because the fans voted for it.
Yeah,
so.
let's do what the fans voted. Give the fans what they want.
Exactly. That's what give the people power to the people.
So yeah, why did you put it out there? What were the choices and what was What did the fans end up wanting to hear?
Yeah, so before in Insider, before we started Marvel Alliance, me and Chris threw some ideas around and whatnot, and we've always said this before. Two topics we're going to cover in the future are X-Men being the MCU and the Spider-Man films, but we kind of shelved those for this week because last week we kind of had a mini discussion, so we wanted to change up. And two other ones we had were character debuts in the MCU or character returns. The fans voted. I think it was like 70-30% something there. So fans overwhelmingly went with the debuts, which makes sense. That's the hot, sexy pick, right? You want to know who's coming in. So what is going to happen is Chris has three, I have three, and we're going to kind of what we did with our six storylines for the MCU. These are six characters we'd like to see debut in the MCU. So Chris, I've been babbling. I'll let you go first. What's your first one?
My first one is going to be Spider Woman.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
there's been, I believe, four different versions of Spider Woman in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. Because why not? Um, but I'm gonna go with Jessica Drew. We'll go with the original, and former kind of Hydra at one point. Got her powers from, I believe. Let me pull up my little encyclopedia here of the Marvel Universe. I believe it was in order for her dad to save her life. She gave them
Yeah,
got gifted
yeah,
the
I think you're
powers.
right. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's yep, yep, that there's yeah. Dr. Drew was forced to inject Jessica with an untested spider serum to place her in the high evolutionary's genetic accelerator. And she was gifted the powers of enhanced strength, wall crawling, can glide in air currents, bioelectric venom blast, immunity to poisons and radiation. She was working with Hydra, and Nick Fury discovered her, and she discovered the truth about who she was working for, and then kind of at times became Shield private investigator. She was in and out of the costume a number of times, but I like, people say, well, that sounds really familiar, like Black Widow. I was like, you can, but that kind of, like I always say, that kind of lessens her impact at that point.
Hmm.
She's got the spy background, but she's also got the powers, and she's gone into Spider-Man's universe. She's gone for Shield. She's gone to Avengers. So she doesn't have to be in Spider-Man. You can plug her into a lot of different parts in the MCU, and especially with post Endgame, does a Shield exist? Do we have an agency like that she would be kind of very cool to see as a member of it with these powers?
Also, other attribute you forgot, very cool suit. That's a big thing as well. You got the
Hmm.
classic, like the web kind of wings and whatnot. I
Yep.
was gonna ask you because this is why I was scared to pick any Spider-Man people, and I don't think I've ever asked you this question outright. After the Sony Spider-Man deal, so we got he's gonna be Spider-Man, whatever
Hmm.
3 is for the MCU, and then he has one more crossover. Do you think we're getting a re-extension of that?
I would like to. I mean, Spider Woman's one of these ones, like I said, that dabbles into all different worlds.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that I don't know if it's you only or not. I mean, her debut was Marvel Spotlight number 32. So she's not necessarily a debut Spider-Man character
Mhm.
in their universe. So if the deal falls through, maybe Disney and Marvel can kind of claim ownership, a little bit of ownership of that. But
Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch style in a
yeah,
way.
something like that. But I think if if everything goes through the way it should, I think it's the partnership is too profitable for both sides to just walk away from. But we could always use Tom to cry, and everyone will fall to pieces and say, "Well, we can't have you cry."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for me, I think it will continue just because I do think Sony's gonna I think, we talked about this last episode about the other Marvel properties depending on Morbius. I also think that deal has a lot to depend on Morbius as well, because if that comes
Mhm.
out and kinda bombs or disappoints, I might be like, we should really stick with Marvel." I always worry that, let's say, like, Venom 2 does great and Morbius does great, they might get the, "Do we really need them?" Like, that's what I'm always worried that it's gonna happen, so yeah, I'd love to see her. I'm kind of the same way as I am with DC and Batman, where I love Batman. I'll take Batman all the time, but I definitely want more of the Bat family, and that's kind of the same way with Spider-Man. Obviously, it's a different dynamic because it's not like him with a bunch of sidekicks. But we talked about this last week. There's so many, Silk, Spider Woman,
Mhm.
Spider Gwen, Miguel O'Hara, Miles Morales is obviously we're going to talk about later in the game, but still like his movie that's happening. But I think there's just so many just characters in the universe of Spider-Man that the fact that they're not taking advantage in the right ways to me. Madam Web is not the right way. I think there's just lots of, especially Jessica Drew, like she is not a web slinger the same way Spider-Man is. I feel like again her
Mhm.
story, and even let's say Sony does it and it's not, you can't use Hydra, you can't use any of that. They could still just kind of change it to Evil Organization A, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like that's, you can, the story's adaptable. So I would be down for that. I've been a fan of her ever since. Again, most, I always say this with most characters I fall in love with because their look was Marvel Ultimate Alliance video game. Same thing as Moon Knight, where I just saw her for the first time. I was like, what is this costume? And she has very distinctly different powers than Peter Parker as well. So she
Mhm.
caught my eye. And then I'm always down for more Spider people. So I think that's a good pick. So for myself, I had, or did you have anything else to say on Jessica
Nope,
Drew?
nope, I was gonna
Okay.
say I wanna hear your first one.
So I had my first two, which I'm not gonna, I'll do number one, but my first two I was really strong. The third one was tough because it's like the last one. I'm trying to think, who do I go? So I'll start with the third one is like my the one that I was going back and forth with, but I picked. So I don't know if it's a cheat or not, and this is what you can tell me. And if not, I can always change it up. But I feel like it
Well,
kind
I've
of
got a
works.
kind of a cheat, so
Okay, yeah.
I'll have to allow it.
I went with the leader. Now, I know in the Incredible Hulk we kind of introduced that character, but I feel like that's not necessarily the leader, right? It was the setup to him, but we've never
Mhm.
seen the leader, the Hulk's villain. And I think that's probably because one, we can't get a Hulk solo movie, but the great thing is what's happening soon on Disney Plus is She-Hulk. And I think you are going to see a plethora of Hulk storylines or characters. Obviously, she has some great storylines. I gotta read more on it, honestly. I've not read enough for her. I've read her a lot of her in crossovers, but I've only read a few of her arcs, so I'd like to read more. So I'm a little more unfamiliar on her, but I think you'll get great storylines from her. But I also think they will cherry pick and take things from almost the same way Arrow did with their show, right? You could see like inspirations from Batman, especially with that Ra's al Ghul season. So I could see them doing that with Hulk and Leader. That actor was set up. It's an actor that, I always look at the business side. He's affordable, not in a bad way, but just like he didn't become a major star, right? I could see him doing a Disney Plus series or something like that. I could see that it's a little bit of a different dynamic now because Hulk is not the monster. You kind of always have that, right? This is like the ultimate brains versus bronze sort of scenario, but this time it's flipped where the brains is the villain and the bronze, so like just the pure bronze is the
Mhm.
hero. So I think I could see that happening. I think just the range of kind of bad guys that the leader gets together to take down the Hulk, and especially if there's a chance the Hulk is in She-Hulk, there's a chance that that arm, we know it's hurt right now, but it's comic books, right? He could be healing it somehow. It could be fixed. There's a chance if we have She-Hulk and maybe not even a full angry Hulk, but a Hulk with Bruce Banner with all his, limbs back. There's a chance that okay, leader, he's a perfect guy because he's known for getting together other Hulk films and kind of creating a anti-Hulk squad to take him down. So I just was all, it's one of those that, like I said, it's kind of a return. Like I said, it's kind of a cheap, but I don't consider him who he was playing the leader. It's like if you were to have Jack Napier and then the Joker. I know they're the one the same, but Jack Napier, I wouldn't want Jack Napier back in a Batman movie. I'd want the Joker, and that's why with Leader, they set him up, and clearly it they had plans at some point to use him, but they never did. So that I really want to see more Hulk characters. So I am hoping with She-Hulk we get some sprinkling of that.
Yeah, I mean, I that was like you said, it's very obvious in the Hulk movie that he was going to be the leader, and since it doesn't matter, you can recast it. And it's not necessarily a big deal at that
Yeah,
point since it was just such a quick sequence. But yeah, no, he was supposed to be it. But the cool thing, like you said, with She-Hulk is it's a different interpretation. But like with Bruce, his rage is able to come out when he represses. Jessica when she's very much more often has stayed in She-Hulk form than her human form.
yeah.
And the reason for that is that when you have rage with Bruce, when Hulk comes out, he gets to express his rage. Her confidence and when she's She-Hulk skyrockets, and that's one of the reasons why she chooses to stay in She-Hulk form is because of what turning into it gives her the biggest confidence boost that she doesn't have in human form.
Well,
So
and that's I was gonna ask you too, is for because there's been multiple versions of She-Hulk, right? There's been one where she goes back and forth. There's one where she primarily stays. What do you think the MCU route's gonna go? Obviously, we know we're gonna meet her as probably like as her human. And then I still, I still have a question of so. I love comic books, but we've talked about this before with adaptation, you gotta change some things. I do think the origin of her getting a blood transfusion from Bruce Banner, aka the person who's permanently as the Hulk, is very dangerous. So I feel like, and it's a little, I have to, I think they'd have to adapt it really well because every time with their origin, I've always thought like this felt, it feels a little cheesy to me, a little hokey. Of just like it felt really obvious, like okay, she's gonna be the She-Hulk because yeah, you took this guy's blood and put it in her body. I get the way they go, oh, she can't live, but I am wondering one, if they're going to keep that origin, but two, I was going to ask you, once she becomes She-Hulk, do you think there'll be ability to go back and forth, or do you think it'll be permanent? I personally think it'll be back and forth just for a budgetary reason.
Yeah, it would be, and I didn't mean to say Jessica, it's Jennifer. I've got
For Jennifer,
Jessica
yeah,
Drew
yeah.
still on the way, Jennifer Walters, but, like you said, it just depends on how much budget there is. I mean, it could I don't know how they plan on kinda portraying a transformation because like you said, the transformation is probably gonna be the biggest how that's portrayed is gonna be the biggest amount of CG needing to be done versus is she gonna be in one form occasionally changing, or are we just gonna keep her in the form and transform only when necessary back to being a human?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I could see both, but wouldn't mind just seeing someone out there. I am She-Hulk. I am who this person is. I don't have to go back and forth. I like it'd be kind of a different thing. Like I'm comfortable with who I am at
Mhm.
that point, and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that show. One, because we talked about it a few times. I hope that a lawyer world sets up another lawyer possibly coming in. But it's a character that, like I said, I'm a bit more unfamiliar with. But I think a lot of people have been clamoring for it. And I, again, with Hulk getting not a solo film, there's been a lack of Hulk. So I'm pretty excited to see a show based on just those kind of that world. So I can't wait for that show.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun whenever we get these.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, my second one is bring in an Avenger, one that's kind of had occasional followings at that point. Wonder Man,
Mm.
Simon Williams at that point. Um, his kind of background. He was kind of a Tony Stark like character running an industrial firm and basically made some bad choices, and the board kicked him out and kind of got tied up with Zemo, who he trying to convert him and things like that. He agreed to work with him and become a test subject for his ionic ray, which would endow him with superhuman strength and durability. After going through it, he had to go through lots of chemical and radiation treatments and became emerged with all these huge attributes that Zemo promised. And, some of his abilities are superhuman strength, durability, stamina, flight. He's kind of in the kind of a more modern, he can go human form, but I've also seen him in the ionic kind of form. And he was meant to be sent after the Avengers, but then realized during the first fight that, he was lied to at that point
Hmm.
and teamed up with them and has kind of been an Avenger. I think he's dabbled a little bit in the villain side occasionally, but he's been more of Avenger than villain.
Do you think if they, which a good pick, do you think if they brought him in, would they change his name?
Why would they change his name? I
Well,
missed it.
is it that kind of, Shazam, Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, Wonder Man sort of deal as far as would they worry that it's
No,
too similar?
I wouldn't say that. I think that's just kind of happenstance because they're those have their you can, but I think I'll trust the general public to say they'll understand Marvel versus
Mhm.
well sometimes they do, but we can't say everyone. But I don't think I've never heard he has such a cult following. He's not the most popular Avenger at that point that
Yeah.
I don't think that, Shazam, Wonder Woman, those within their own rights are very popular. I don't think Wonder Man carries that, but I also like seeing an underdog hero kind of punch through and give a new generation to kind of look at him and maybe get some traction for the character.
Yeah, would this be a character you think you would debut in a solo film, or do you think you'd do the Civil War, kind of introduce him somewhere else?
Well, we don't know who our Avengers team's going to be, so
That's true.
I don't think this is a character you have to carry on in solo until after introducing an Avengers movie. You don't.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm kind of one of these things like we can just accept some of these new heroes. We get a little taste of their backstory and a team up, but then if they gain that kind of following, yeah, they could do their own solo, but I don't foresee Wonder Man debuting as solo first. It'll be an Avengers movie.
Plus, I also think that you can take similar routes if he could be an Avengers movie, but then you could kind of do a Captain Marvel, Captain America kind of prequel esque movie where it
Mhm.
is, or even Black Widow, I guess now is our first prequel of a character we had met in another movie, and then we're going backwards. Because the thing is, honestly, maybe he wouldn't have to be a big superhero because he's not Endgame. But you look at Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, that movie takes place throughout the MCU, and then he kind of gets to where he's going at the end. There's a lot that happened in those 5 years that we have no idea about, right? Like the 5 years
Mhm.
from End or Infinity War to Endgame, and obviously, like I said, he's not probably a major superhero right now because you'd think he was at that battle. But then I guess at the end of the day, they say, yeah, he was somewhere in that battle. But no, I don't think they would do that. I think they could be like, though, his origins were starting or his story was happening during at that point. I think we're gonna see a lot of certain characters. Like I don't even, and I'm not being coy. I just mean like just certain characters they may have pegged of okay, their origin or where they're same thing. Like people speculate, like maybe like saying she like some of his smaller origins, just start of his story can be in the start of 5 years. So a 5 year jump, especially in the MCU, that has never really done that before. It's always been seemingly like pretty year to year and we're following these characters like concurrently moving forward. There's a chunk that we as viewers have no idea what happened. It's like I still question all the time of like when Cap and Natasha had that conversation of like, oh, maybe no one needs to do this. Is there just not that much crime anymore? Is Natasha just like, and they kind of made that thing up, right, where she's like maybe getting too worried, but it's like I do still wonder what the state of the world was at that point. So I think you can shove a lot in those 5 years that would fit because 5 years is a long time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1.
So, but what's your next one?
My next one is so let's see. Who do I want to go with? I'll go with this one. I'll go with the phone. I'll leave the main event for last. So speaking of Endgame, Endgame is a movie now. There's always certain times where I bet you can't see this character, you can't see this scene, you can't do this in a movie because it's just too comic booky or it's too out there, or I just don't believe you can make it work. But then I saw the Endgame battle, and I legitimately it made me believe that I thought anything can work now. Like and just that scope of it, everything. I thought there's nothing on screen anymore that I think can't work. So that's what I think. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I do think one day we're going to see MODOK in the MCU. But again, pre-Endgame, I would have been, no, that's just too weird. It's too wonky. But even just certain things they did in that movie where, like I said, they went full comic booky. To me, I don't think of Endgame as the greatest comic book film. But if you ask me like what's the most comic booky movie, like what's the great like quote unquote comic book movie, I always say it's that or Spider-Verse, because Spider-Verse obviously that art style has just like the spirit of a comic book, right? But Endgame is just panels of comic book weirdness of comic book just thrown on the screen. And MODOK is he's as
Now
weird as
here's a test. What does MODOK stand for?
I don't got it. I
No.
lose it every time. It's like what is it? Mechanizing operator machine only designed for killing or something
Yeah,
like that.
you're close. I think the M has been done like either mental, mobile, or
Yeah.
mechanized, but then so you got mechanized organism designed only for killing. So you got most of it. So
Yeah,
bravo, good job.
it's always the beginning because, like you said, I've seen it in comics and video games different. So it's like, oh, I'm never gonna learn this, and I never have. So I just think again, he's a super weird character. He's menacing. I don't in the role I have him in. I don't think he would be a main villain. You could take that route. I think he could be a good side villain or even a good appearance. Like maybe it's kind of similar to the way of Baron von Strucker in Age of Ultron, or who does George St. Pierre play again in Winter Soldier? He has that
um,
cameo. I can never remember his name, but I could see a villain like
yeah, it
that where
escapes me.
yeah, I could see MODOK being a villain like that where it's either Avengers or whoever the hero is taking down this guy to get further information. You could get wacky, something like a Guardians or Ant-Man that are very comedic. Maybe he is just the full-on villain, but I think just visually, even the mainstream audience is gonna see a picture of him and they're gonna be very curious. They're like, "Who is this?" And I think the biggest thing is casting is key. I know he's just a head in the like whatever a bowl with a little arms and legs, but
Mhm.
casting is key with this one. With someone you got to get someone that it could just like that can be scary, but really has to ham it up in the right way. Because there's ways you can ham it up that are maybe too much. You need to find that casting. Honestly, it doesn't sound like it, but to me, that casting is super hard. But yeah, so Modok is someone that I think is possible now, and I'd love to see it as like a classic comic fan. He's been around for ages. He's been an Avengers villain. He's been a villain for a lot of people. Iron Man. So I would love to see just visually that on screen.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That might I'm curious to see what your last choice is, but that might be part of our cover art for this week.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my last one is it could be kind of considered a cheat, but with Marvel TV until Disney Plus took over, it was kind of like wink nudge. Are they connected? Really, they're connected. Netflix, are they connected? Really, they're connected. Outside of these little references, I've kind of gone back and forth, but my last one is something I think that really deserves a true MCU treatment, and that would be Ghost Rider. For all you Nick Cage fans, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, not my cup of tea. I like Nick Cage, not my cup of tea, but I
Yeah.
applaud his efforts. But yeah, I mean, this is a character that you can. There have been, I believe, either 6 or 7, I think 7, yes, 7 iterations of the Ghost Rider. You have Johnny Blaze, Noble Kale, Danny Ketch, Alejandra Jones, Robbie Reyes, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Ghost slash the Rider. Um,
Ghost slash the
that's the
right.
rider.
Yeah.
Or just the rider itself. There's not
Yeah.
encompassed. But yeah, our main ones were, the six, and the most entertaining one to date is Cosmic Ghost Rider, played by Frank Castle. If you want a freaking awesome ride of just, we're gonna throw the whole book out the door and have Frank Castle in an alternative universe become the Ghost Rider, that's a fun ride. But I mean, there's just, it always comes down to, the character either is on death's bed or wants to strike out vengeance
Yeah.
on someone. Oh, and then,
It's not going good for him whenever he becomes Ghost
yeah,
Rider.
either they're dying or someone
Yeah.
yeah, something's
Death
happened.
around.
Yeah, then they get greeted with I don't even know, the devil, or are we going with, Satan at that point? I don't it's later revealed to be Mephisto. We'll just go with Mephisto many
Yeah.
times. It's mostly Mephisto, who basically says, okay, I'll either save your life or, do this for you, but now you become, the new Ghost Rider. And most of them, I'm not familiar as much with Alejandra Jones and that iteration as much, but typically with Blaze and Catch, they have been, motorcycles. It was when
Yeah.
Robbie Reyes came in that brought in the muscle car at that point, which I thought was really cool. So, I mean, you have your choice. It doesn't have to be just because it's the first appearance of Ghost Rider. I mean, the first appearance of Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we ever saw on that was Robbie Reyes.
Mhm.
So I mean, you don't have to go Johnny Blaze, and I know that's where the Nick Cage movies went, but you have your pick. I don't think they're going the Cosmic Ghost Rider yet. I don't think they're going to jump the shark on that one, but
See
I
that
would love it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Yeah, so what would be your like not like likelihood? Let's say you get that phone call from Kevin Feige. He says, "What Ghost Rider do you want?" What's the one version you would put in? Because I know you when I guessed it on Civil Servants,
Mhm.
you were pumping up Cosmic Ghost Rider as a big
Yeah.
favorite of yours.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go that because he'll say, "All right, well, we're going somewhere else." I got to be a little bit. I really think we need to get Robbie back in. I think I
Hmm.
think that was one of the best things about that season of Shield, and they were such clamoring for it. And then when they said, "Oh, we're going to do Ghost Rider show," it's going to be Robbie Reyes, but not connected. So, okay, we still get
Is
Robbie, I'd
our
like
our
to
Ghost
think
Rider of
that
choice. Now,
Robbie. Does that negate the history? No, that we could learn about the history of the Ghost Riders that have been in the past. So that doesn't negate Johnny Blaze, Ketch, Noble, Alejandra ever making appearances. But I think that for a generation that likes seeing, younger heroes step up, he's a younger guy wanting to do the right thing at that point, but he's got the biggest muscle car ever, and seeing that transform into his Ghost Rider vehicle, oh, it's so cool.
I agree with you. Yeah, I could see that being the route. So I will take the controversial thing and saying I
All
think
right.
Cosmic
then
Ghost
I
Rider
want to
has
give it
more
credit for.
potential than happening Yeah, just because I think the reason is so for viewers, Frank Castle is the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Unfortunately, John Barenthal is one of the most pitch perfect castings, and I think we're not gonna get that
Oh my
back.
gosh, yes.
Yeah, but I don't so unless we get some sort of maybe, okay, it's on Hulu and it's that show, I think that they may go, "We like Punisher and people love Punisher, they love the skull, they love the lore, but we don't wanna do that really kind of," and I know MC does go there, but there's a different level of Punisher, right? That's like kind of some of the darker characters of Marvel. It's kind of one more just level than the rest. So I think they could in that way the same way of like we can make him brutal, we can make him violent, but when he's killing CGI or like very space like creatures or something like that, they could get away with it. So maybe he's not first, but I think there's potential because I don't think they'll want to do actual Frank Castle. I think they'll want to change it up, and I think they'll want to do something a bit more friendly, but kind of have something you know and love as far as people, Ghost Rider's still not the biggest, but people have an idea because of Nick Cage who he is. So like I said, I don't know if he's the first, but I think Cosmic Ghost Rider is in play in maybe the next decade, to be honest. It all depends.
I will gladly eat my words on that because, like I said, you said it before. I love Cosmic Ghost. I love
Yeah.
most of them, but it's just the way they an alternative universe where he gets not only become Ghost Rider, but then becomes a herald of Galactus. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, you jumped the shark on that one. I will tip my hat to Disney and Marvel saying, all right, let's if we're gonna lean, let's lean hard.
I will say though, and maybe they just take the route, maybe they just do a second season of What If, and maybe that's how they cover Cosmic Ghost Rider as well, right? That
Or
could
we
be a
might
way.
maybe an appearance in Multiverse of Madness. That would be also
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm always down for kind of whatever version of Ghost Rider. I want to
Mhm.
see him. Taylor Geekvers, that's like his favorite Marvel hero. So he's always just like hoping one day it'll happen. And yeah,
Well, Taylor, that's for you and me. There you go, Ghost Rider.
yeah, and I was hoping once that show got canceled, I was, bummed up for that guy because obviously he was a big fan of the character and I think there could have been some potential there, but obviously that means something's in the works. So I'm very interested to see what happens, especially because MCU feels like phase 4, maybe phase 5 are getting very spacey, but also like very like supernatural-esque. So I am excited to see what they can do. But talking about being very spacey, again, I don't know if this one is coming in the near future, and this is not a unique pick. Many people have wanted this, and it could still be a possibility. I don't think it's happening, but is Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill is, kind of a classic
Yeah.
fan pick, but it's one of those I want to see too. It's just I remember reading a comic and then seeing Beta Ray Bill appear and just trying to figure out why does Thor look like a horse now? Like I was trying to just the logistics of who is this guy, and I remember just like jump. I was I can't remember. I got like a friend's issue, and then after I just jumped on the internet and immediately and read everything about him and read about his planet and how he's worthy and how he was kind of like an enemy of Thor, but then turned into hero. So the thing is with Thor: Love and Thunder, I know people have talked about like, oh, it could be Christian Bale. I don't think Christian Bale is playing a horseman. I really don't think that's
Or at
the
least
route.
the voice, or at
Yeah,
least the
yeah,
voice.
that I could see. The voice, yeah, 100%. But if it's him in the mocap suit, he ain't mocapping a horseman, So I just also think that story, if they cover the whole Jane Foster with cancer, which I'm really hoping they do, I don't think there's much room for Bay Ray Bill. I think that's its own movie. So I think there's just lots of potential there. I think it's a stunning character. I think it opens up a lot of weirdness. But the good thing is, as long as you have Taika Waititi, I think he can handle the weirdness correctly. I think that and the good thing is it's weirdness, but there's an emotional story there. It's kind of I feel he's kind of has similar vibes to Martian Manhunter as like a man who's lost a lot of things and he's just looking for a new purpose in life. And you have that with Thor, you have that partnership, and he could be that kind of good. Okay, he's a villain, then you introduce somebody else. I think maybe that's a chance for Thor 5. I don't know. I'm thinking really far ahead, but I don't think like correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think Enchantress is really dead? Or sorry, not Enchantress, Hela's really dead because her like death scene in Thor Ragnarok is it's off screen, and we know what that means.
But yeah, I mean, the good thing with when it comes to anyone in like the Thor kind of universe at that point. I mean, we've seen it with Loki.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, Loki doesn't stay dead for too long, and create a good enough story to bring her back. But it'd be very interesting to see when when outside of Loki, just because I mean, Hiddleston became that character.
Mhm.
It'd be interesting to see if there's a big clamoring to bring Hela back. I don't see it happening, but yes, you could.
Yeah, I think people like her a lot, but I don't think it's like was a massive villain. I think I wanted a little bit more time with her in Thor Ragnarok. I think maybe that would have helped her, but that's what I really want her because I love Kate Blanchett. So anytime you get more Kate Blanchett, I like the way she played that character, and I think at the end of the day, she is Thor's sister, right? So there's still, I think, a little more meat on the bone to chew there. I think obviously lots of people were maybe expecting her to be in Infinity War as like the proxy for death, but I don't know. I just think when you have an actress like that, and it was kind of a shady death, I think that could be a potential of, hey, maybe Loki isn't around anymore, and that's how it kind of starts. Is maybe there's a partnership with Beta Ray Bill, there's a turn, and then they take her down together. But I think getting Beta Ray Bill in there, and again, I don't know, it's not locked on him, but I think having Taika Waititi is a necessary thing to get a, I won't say like a proper Beta Ray Bill, but a Beta Ray Bill that people could accept. I do think sometimes with Taika, as far as the Thor movie, I love that movie. I think sometimes some of the serious moments are taken down a little bit with humor, but I think he made a lot of stuff in that movie that was really wild and really weird work. And I think Beta Ray Bill he's ready to work now. I think again, kind of like the Modoc thing. I think audiences are ready to see that character.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, and I know, a lot of people are on one side or the other when it comes to Ragnarok, and they say, "Man, Taika did it." I said, people seem to also forget that Chris Hemsworth has been so thankful. He
Yeah.
says that he has been so much happier with the direction of this character at that point. So let's not all point our fingers at Taika at that point. Chris Hemsworth is also a big promoter of the direction they're taking. But again, as I've always said, if you don't like this, go back to the other versions or read the other comic books. That never, no one will ever take that away from you.
Oh yeah, exactly. And clearly Marvel's a fan. They brought Taika back, and Disney
Mhm.
is a fan of him overall. So I think he'll be sticking around for a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah,
So
those were my three.
yeah, so I think it's always amazing when we pick these choices if we're going to run into kind of similar choices. But yet again, here we are.
Hmm.
Different ideas. So let us know what you think, listeners. Who would be? Maybe we should put that up there.
Yeah.
If which ones do you see being more plausible from each one of our choices, and maybe next week we can get some listener feedback on some of their choices and theories on how to bring them in. I think that I'd like to hear from the listeners on that.
Yeah, we should for sure do that. We'll tweet out a question and we'll read some out next week. So
Yeah,
perfect. Well, we
awesome.
got we got some small news items this week. Nothing as big as
Yeah,
Evan Peters and stuff, but we got some stuff in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, no, we'll start off with probably one of our biggest ones. As PS5 kind of made their kind of debut. They're showing the box, showing some games, and probably the biggest game announcement that they led with was Spider-Man Miles Morales coming
Hmm.
to PS5. And there was a lot of, I think, within the 24 to 48 hours of that coming out, there were a lot of back and forth on, is this a sequel? Is this just a DLC? What's it look like? And thankfully, I think it was Jason Strayer, I believe.
Schreier is how you
Schreier,
pronounce
Jason
it. Yeah.
Schreier
Yeah.
from he was head of Kotaku, now has gone over to Bloomberg.
Mhm.
Uh, Basically said from his sources and put out the article uh, that this will be a extension of the original game. It is not a sequel. It is an extension, very much similar. If any of you all are fans of the Uncharted franchise, they basically did the same thing. It was called Uncharted Lost Legacy for well, I think it was like $40 at that point. So you get to
Yeah.
be in the same universe, different ideas, but not a full on sequel for this, which I was more shocked if this was going to be the full sequel. Not bashing it whatsoever. I love that game. It's probably one of the best. It's for the Marvel side. That's the standard Marvel's got to go for. DC is still the Arkham games.
Mhm.
Um, I don't care whatever we get. That they're basically saying it's going to be like an Uncharted, where it's going to be like maybe 20, like half the time was 40, so it's like a 20-hour game. We get to be Miles, because that's where, spoilers, 3 2 1, you know that's what the end of that game was. You saw Miles has the spider powers.
I would think if you've seen the game announcement of Spider-Man Miles Morales, you've now been instantly spoiled because you must be like, "Oh, I guess that's what happens in that game, huh?"
It's not the biggest part, but it was. I mean, he
Mhm.
was very much a prominent figure in it, so you just don't put Miles in there, and he's grown into such a, Spider Verse blew it up to new proportions, but Miles, since his introduction, has constantly, it makes me happy that he has stuck around and has such a huge fan base.
It
I'm not one of these gatekeepers that say I saw him first. No, I just love that. I just love that he's been as popular and he's getting his moments to shine in so many different ways.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1. Well, it's funny. Like we'll, in a future episode on maybe your show, we'll be talking about some Ultimate stuff, and it's just so funny when I read Ultimate Spider-Man and Miles came in, and I liked the character, but I just didn't. You never know with characters that are kind of the not replacement, but kind of a an adjacent to, right? He
Hmm.
is, he's the new Spider-Man thing for Peter, and you never know how it's going to be because I think we've seen many times where that doesn't work out, right? So it just to me is funny where I read that, and then now it's just, and someone had this great kind of. I don't know. I think Brian Michael Bendis might have retweeted it, but it was just 4 pictures on Twitter. It was like him in the comic, his debut, him in an animated show in Spider-Verse, and now the game. And it's just funny that he is just getting bigger and bigger. And this is not a fact or fiction, but we're just like, we're close to not close because you don't know with Sony and Marvel, but with a live action Miles Morales is in the foreseeable future. It's not out
Hmm.
of the question now. This character is taking on a life of his own. He's becoming very popular. Especially, I feel for it's kind of like Black Panther for the Black community. He is a very big popular figure. So I think this is a smart move. I think the reason it's been kind of weird is I think that this is all on the business and marketing side because I think they're trying to figure out. And I'm a day oneer. I love this game. I agree with Chris that it is like the gold standard as far as Marvel games. I can't wait for the actual proper sequel as far as like a not proper, not being Miles, but just like a long, 40-hour campaign. I think they
Oh,
are
but how
trying.
about switching off between both of them? Get them both in there.
I
Switch
want
off
that.
between.
Yeah, I want that. I agree with you. I think that's a way to go. So I hope that could be the potential route we take after this. So I think this game, what you should expect is a 20 hours could be nice. I would say going as low as possible. I would expect 8 to 12 story. I expect you get some new nice suits because we were talking about this on our charity stream we did. You would imagine they have to do the Spider-Verse suit. I think that would be a great alternate costume with
Hmm.
the hoodie and the spray paint. I think expect some side missions and then maybe even some teases to the full game. I think the reason why there's been so much because even Insomnia tweeted out, it's like, oh, we'll give you details on our full single player game, and they are using terms that are a little cagey. I think the reason is they're trying to figure out how's the best way we can sell this and make a lot of money, but also not have people right away be like, oh, it's just this, because there are some people that go, oh, it's just like it's not a full game. So I think from a business side, they're trying to figure out what to do. And I wouldn't be surprised that for people that have the PS4, if they make this a PS5 timed exclusive, I would
Hmm.
say look out for that. That maybe like the first 6 months of the PS5, you can only play, or maybe I don't think they'll go a year. That's a bit much, but even then, first 6 months to a year, you can only play Spider-Man Miles Morales to PS5. It'll eventually come to PS4, but that might be a way to get you to buy the PS5. So I think that's why like because it's weird that Insomniac and then the head of marketing for Sony both put out very different statements. One said it was DLC, one said it was a single game. So I think they got to get on the same track. I think they will, and I'm just very excited. I'm very excited to see where that story goes, and I'm just again kind of very happy for that character. I got to ask you, it's not off topic because we're talking about. What did you think of the PS5 box?
I mean, it's definitely very unique. It's
Yep.
grown in size since its origin to that point of standing upright. It's the box, it's nice. It's very sleek looking. It's
Yeah, yeah,
I'm an Xbox and PS5 guy, so I mean, they've already got my money for both. I'm not necessarily one of those saying, "Oh, I'm not going to buy that because it looks terrible."
yeah, yeah.
No,
Oh
I'm
yeah. No.
going to buy it because I want the games. I want to
Oh
play it
yeah.
on there.
And no one's
Um,
doing that. Anyone that's saying that was already not buying it. They're just saying that.
no, they're just lying.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the people like,
Or they never
oh,
were a PS5 or a Xbox person to begin with.
yeah.
So,
It's like everybody with pass, and I'm not gonna see the Bat movie. Yeah, you are. You're gonna be there day one. You're gonna be there day two. It's just like
yeah.
it's there's empty promises. But
But
yeah,
but
I
I'll
mean,
I'll disagree. I'll disagree with you on the that it's a PS5 exclusive just
okay.
because it's not a full game. It is an extension and there for a new console to come out with we don't know the price, but we know it's going to be a pretty penny to afford
Oh yeah.
to kind of I don't think they're using this add-on game as a system seller. I think you sell it. I don't know what their system seller is going to be yet in that sense,
Mhm.
but I don't think it's going to be Miles Morales. I think it's a nice thing that you're graphically, it's going to look good and maybe throw a couple of things. If you play it on PS5, you get this or can do
Yeah.
this, but I don't see them exclusive because that's really gonna. I think you're gonna tick more people off that way, especially since more of the fan base is with the PS4 right now.
100%. Yeah, that's why we'll see. I could even see if they did a time even like the first month just to try to do it. But yeah, you could be I because that is the biggest risk. You do make people mad, but I guess it's a calculated error to see if that would pay off for them sales wise. But I guess we'll see because those consoles are supposed to come out in the fall, not too far away, and I'm excited. We'll definitely talk about it on this show when it comes out. I'm sure we'll get another like trailer. I'm excited to see what they do for villains in this game too, because I was not expecting this type of setup. I was kind of expecting like you, Spider-Man 2, more Miles. I was not expecting a hey, you're gonna be Miles' full game, however long it is. So it's gonna be interesting to see
Yeah.
what they roll out.
Yeah, with more excitement. But our next one, a quick hit. Free Comic Book Day got canceled because of
Mm.
COVID. Marvel is putting out in July I th- two of their kind of big releases that were going to be in comic book shops. Spider-Man Venom, which is going to tie into those storylines going on currently. But I think the bigger one, which was I think Marvel has to get this out there because of how big this event they're teaming it up to be, is the Free Comic Book Day with the Ten of Swords. You could say X of Swords, but it's really Ten of Swords.
Yeah.
um, and they need to get that out there because of that storyline is quickly fast approaching. Um, and so this was supposed to be the preview event looking at that next big event coming from Hickman.
Yeah, it's just it's tough. It's kind of like what the with the movies. It's tough to say as far as it's just obviously as far as there's bigger problems in the world going on as far as COVID
Mm-hmm. Oh,
doing
yes.
things, but it's just on the just enjoying life, day to day things. It sucks because it feels like we're in this where Ant Man is in Endgame. We're just stuck in this time little warp, and of course, there's still like great things in life happening. But as far as like our content wise, it just feels like it's in this loop, and it feels like as far as movies, TV shows, and even some video games, 2020 feels like kind of a lost year. It's going to be very strange to look back. And I even think about like you have kids, I have kids, like talking hopefully in the near future this is done so it's not a thing that will affect them too much going forward, but even when they're older talking about like yeah, especially with my daughter right now, my youngest, she's turning a year in August, so like now the first year she was alive, I'm always going to think about this time of thinking like man, like yeah, when you were born we everything was delayed and you had to be inside and you had to do this and do that, and hopefully we get past this time. So it's an unfortunate event. It's kind of very much like the MCU. It's tough that when one thing gets delayed and doesn't come out, everything gets delayed. So you're completely right that if you're having an event, you kind of got to get an event. You got to get something that ties in before a certain thing, right? Because spoilers are just continuity. So there's a chance, obviously, it's coming out now. But let's say if something else happened again, it didn't work out, you'd have to kind of reshuffle everything. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Kind of like what we saw earlier this week with I know they'll talk about on DC with the and Warner Brothers. They just shifted their whole slate, right? And we saw Marvel do
Yeah.
that a few months ago. The entire MCU got shifted. So we're not this shows between movies and comic books where people wanting to be, not get anything political, people just wanting to get out there and start making money. We're not in that safe zone yet where we can just get back to things being normal. Things
Yeah.
are still going to be delayed, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a while before we understand what quote unquote normal is
Yeah.
or what our new normal is going to be. But here's another quick hit coming from this. I believe this came from the site MCU Exchange, but this has been floating around there for a while. I think Cinema Spot looking at this idea of Hercules coming into the MCU, and this was kind of a head scratcher to me. I said, "Oh, really? Okay, Hercules,
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah. I
um,
will.
it's
Oh,
been
you go
back.
ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been back and forth because I think the first time I heard about it, it was rumored with Eternals, but then they've said no, not Eternals. But this rumor keeps on persisting that Hercules is coming. So
Hmm.
they seem to think that it could be maybe Thor: Love and Thunder at that point. But it's interesting. It wouldn't be the character that I would get most excited about.
Yeah, that was gonna be my first question to you. How are you on the Hercules? Because I just it might be I don't think it's that hot of a take, but I don't really need Hercules in the MCU. I think this is purely I've read him before, but it's nothing has really clicked with me. Even his like newer costume that he has right now, because
Hmm.
they people have been showing images, being like, "Oh, look, they've redone him." That usually happens before he goes in the movies. They are correct in that. I just don't really like that costume. I think it's also because it's just it's strange for me. It's different with Thor and Loki, this North mythology, right? Where Hercules, he's just such a he's public domain. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure anybody can make a Hercules movie, really. And it's just even the fact of the Russo brothers are producing a movie, so we're gonna get a Hercules kind of based on the Disney animated movie, then a Hercules in the MCU. I feel I this is one that I need to be sold on a bit more. Not even with casting, just the whole I gotta see the look and appeal of it. So I don't know. I'm not excited for it, and it's just kind of one of these things that I thought it was something they would maybe avoid because I don't think you need that character. And I think if, especially with Disney having another big IP that is called Hercules in the near future, I find it strange. What about you?
Yeah, like I said, it like a lot of things we say, well, we weren't asking for a Hercules, but if they can bring me new appreciation for the character,
Hmm.
I'm all ears. But right now, it's definitely not. Oh, Hercules coming. All right,
Yeah.
not get. I'll see it, but I don't. I'm not seeing a solo Hercules movie. I don't think that's a character that's got enough fan base that they can say,
No.
"Hey, let's do a outside of Disney." I don't think we're we're pulling that Disney animated at that point.
And
So,
talk about mainstream confusion, right? For people that
oh
don't,
yeah.
well, yeah, people that have, let's say, whatever, some Hercules Russo Brothers movie comes out 2 years from now, and then 3 years from now, he'd have to be a side character in MCU because if you put out another Hercules movie, people are gonna be like, well, it's Disney made, but I just saw this, but oh, it's in Marvel, and then people are gonna be, oh, Marvel has a Hercules. Like I said, I think it's different with Loki and Thor. There's just a sense of they're just more etched in stone as something very mythical and something that's not like it's not the second you have Hercules in these Disney films like singing and tap dancing, it's tangible and it's like, oh, that's what I associate with. And it kind of where Loki and Thor, I just feel like there's so many versions, not ever one version came up in the mainstream. It was like this is the version. And now it's be different now with kids growing up with this Thor. I feel like if you hear Thor, you're gonna associate it with Chris Hemsworth, right? Kids growing up and
Mhm.
whatnot. But back in the day, I feel like that's what I was with Hercules. I associated I learned all the stories and the myths and all the other movies and lore and TV shows. It's like Robin Hood, right? There's so many versions of it, but I always associate with the Disney one just because that's what I grew up on. So it is a strange play. I do think he would just be a side character perhaps and not a no solo movie unless he blows up. You never know.
Yeah, so, but a couple of last stories, a little more things we can chew on with these. Independent came out with a story that, Jessica Chastain, the director actually of what was it? Doctor Strange had said that it was Jessica Chastain that was offered the role that was played by Rachel McAdams of Christine Palmer, and she turned it down. He was on Stitcher's Junk Food Cinema podcast and gave that little tidbit, and he was like, yeah, she was like, hey, look, this is a project sounds awesome and I would love to do it, but I'm only going to get one shot at being in a Marvel film and becoming a Marvel character. And I trained in a ballet and I really want to wear a cape. He called it the coolest rejection he's ever had, adding she wanted to be in a Marvel movie, but she wanted to be the superhero, not the badass night nurse. She did eventually get into that as in Dark Phoenix. Still on
Hmm.
my list of things to watch. I know, a lot of people weren't a fan of that movie. I hold back until I finally see it. But it's interesting. She's an amazing actress to begin with, but I kind of like that she says, "Oh, she recognizes that I have an opportunity and I want to take it. I'm sorry it was Dark Phoenix, but hopefully she'll get another shot."
Yeah, I think that's the funny thing when she says she wants to make her Marvel debut, right? And I know she has been on record saying she did that role because I imagine she was made a fan, but also she's fan of the
Yes.
director and friends with him. So
Yep.
I get that. I do hope there's more in her future because Dark Phoenix is that is one of the prime examples of taking a great actress or actor and giving them literally nothing to do. Just say you're
Hmm.
gonna play paint on the wall drawing, go, and you go, okay, this is what you get Chastain for. And I'm glad she turned down Night Nurse as well, but I think that character's not the exact same, but I am very disappointed that I'm a big Rachel McAdams fan, and I feel that she is a wasted in that role because she's not come back for two, it seems. And I feel like in the first one, they gave her enough to do, but I just feel like with the way Marvel's brand was, and even that character being cast with Benedict Cumberbatch. I feel like he's a big enough star that that movie would have been successful with or without Rachel McAdams. So I'm always a bandwagon. I wish they'd got someone lesser known, a no-name actress to kind of prop them up, because I just felt like when we got Rachel McAdams cast, that, oh, okay, this is going to be something really good here. And I feel like they didn't give her much to work at all. And McAdams is someone that I thought had more potential. And now I feel like as far as MCU and Marvel, I don't think it's going to go anywhere else. So I would have felt the same as Chastain. So I would welcome her back. She's a great actress.
Yeah, no, like I said, her caliber of actress, doesn't, I will put aside Dark Phoenix at that point. She would be great. I don't know what I'd cast her in, but again, her caliber of what she can bring to the screen would be pretty cool to see in whatever she does. But
Yeah.
so we get a story coming from Screen Rant with Frank Grillo, who played Crossbones in it was Civil War at that point, but his character, seemingly died at that point, but he kind of is closing the door and kind of on ever coming back to the MCU. He gave this interview with Uprock saying that it's not my trajectory right now. It's not where my life is taking me anymore. My friend Johnny Berthal did an amazing job. My life is what I want is much different now. I think I'm outgrowing the whole kind of Marvel superhero thing. But the interesting thing is about this, even though he's saying goodbye, apparently he's got 5 more movies on his contract. So there is a door open. We did see his character pre-Crossbones in Endgame. Um,
Mhm.
but never say never. I can understand. I mean, he wants different things. He's doing different things now. Again, he sounds to be like, I'm just not going to come back just to come back. But as we say in the business, never say never. I really enjoyed it. I thought I wish we got a little more time with him as Crossbones, but again, universe changes.
Yeah, I agree. With him, it's tough because I always think there could be an angle where he's working us. Because I remember during Civil War, him and Chris Evans did some really like fun stuff with social media and really prompting it up like they really disliked each other, which we all knew wasn't the case. But he liked to have some fun with that. So you never know. There's tons of times actors say, "Yeah, I think I'm over this," but then they pop up, and whether that's because of technically he's contractually obligated, right? If they hit him up and say, "Hey, you got to be in this movie," he has to be in the movie, or he's breaking contract. So it could be that, or it is just a, hey, we might have plans. But I agree with you. I wish we got more, but I think that time has passed. I don't think so he's presumably dead in Civil War. So unless there was some kind of alternate universe mumbo jumbo, I don't see him coming back in any sense. And I feel like even though he had lots of interactions with Falcon in Winter Soldier, I feel like his story was more connected to Steve and his kind of like on-screen rivalry. So I don't think there's a place for that character anymore. Unfortunately, I said I agree with you. I wish there was more. But the other place where I think we could see him, and I'm not sure, maybe he's even announced, but I think a potential what if episode voicing the character, I could see that down the line. But as far as live action, I think Crossbones is dead and buried or exploded, unfortunately, by Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, so but I'm gonna bypass this last story. When I realized it was an older story than I thought it was when looking at the title. But quickly, it was one of those things that just kind of came up in my timeline. So I guess someone might have retweeted it. But looking at the I guess an end sequence that didn't happen in Dark Phoenix, where we had the tease of the Essex Corporation
Hmm.
and hinting towards Mr. Sinister, which would have been which would have been fully introduced in the Channing Tatum defunct Gambit movie. So,
Yeah.
oh well.
You can find that script online. It's an interesting script. I never read the full one, but if you find certain places, I had gotten the Deadpool script years before the movies came out, and they
Mm,
changed a few things, and it was funny reading that. But then after I read that, I go, "Oh, I'll never read anything of a script before a movie comes out," because the first like 30 minutes of that movie, I knew what was happening. But it's the only reason I'm very happy from this news, because yeah, you're right, it's a little older, but to me, I think that is a prime setup for MCU. Magneto's been used a lot. They did Apocalypse, they did Dark Phoenix. MCU likes to be different. That's the great thing, is we did never see Mr. Sinister, who's
nope,
one of
we
my
did
favorite
not.
X-Men villains in the X-Men universe. I think especially if Scott Summers takes center stage in the X-Men movies as the leader, that is a prime villain to use. Because I'm the same thing. I think same thing as Wolverine. Magneto may take the. I don't think he'll be gone for long, but I could see them not leading with him. I could see them kind of building up to him. So I think Mr. Sinister would be a great MCU villain, and I'm happy
Mhm.
that they didn't use him because it's kind of ripe for the taking. So
No, I agree with that. I would love to see Mr. Sinister come to the MCU, but yeah, so those are our quick hits of news, and
Mhm.
that's it's your turn for fact or fiction, Travis. So
Fact or
what you
fiction?
got?
Yeah, so I wanted to pull up some of the, fan votes here from last week that,
Hmm.
from Chris is here. So last, week, so here's one. So we had Tom Holland will still be around to play Spider-Man in a solo 4th Spider-Man film. 64% went with fact, 36% went with fiction. What was next here? The main character of MCU's X-Men film will not be Wolverine. 81% went fact, 19% went fiction. I think that's our biggest swing we've had in these just
Hmm.
2 weeks because I think everyone's kind of on our bandwagon here. And then Daredevil's MCU debut will be on Disney Plus series and not a film. 81%. But then again, I was wrong. 81% fiction, 19% fact. So the fans were with us for most of them, but you and I split on that one. I went
Yeah,
the fiction route, and then you went the fact route. So you could have a big swing here if it comes true. But yeah, that was I think our most debated question in the comics last week.
it
I saw the
it
thread.
was, and again, I kind of I think Brent from fans, we were going back and forth
Hmm.
commenting, and I'll say it to him. I said, hey, if you want to put Daredevil on this big screen with in the right form with right writers, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I
no
don't
complaint.
hate on the Ben Affleck version, but you know it give me Daredevil in whatever form, I'll take it as long as there's good writing and good acting behind it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'm gonna start off with because we talked about some Spider-Man video game. I want to hit you with this one. In the next 3 years, we'll get a new solo Spider or a new solo Marvel hero game similar to Spider-Man, either announced or playable. Next 3 years, fact or fiction?
Say that one more time.
So next 3 years, either it's released or announced that we're getting another solo Marvel video game in the style of Spider-Man. So whoever it may be, a Black Panther, an Iron Man, a Captain America, a game like that, but a different character that's not Spider-Man.
Hmm. I'm saying fiction right now. I want it. Um, I just don't know, and that's been one of the biggest things. I saw it the other day. I think one of the biggest crimes is that we don't have as many superhero video games out there, and I kind of point that to when we did have a whole bunch of them, and they were really bad,
Yeah.
and people have got a bad taste in their mouth, and knowing development time and things like that go into this, and now in this new environment, I say you gotta put that further down the road. Who could it be in in right currently? Um, I would think Black Panther would be awesome
Hmm.
just to see like that.
To
But
play a
right,
game in Wakanda would be something special potentially.
even just globetrotting at that
Yeah.
point, because he's a big hero that's globetrotting it, and being that he is a king and he has different and he has shown to be not just tied to Wakanda, but I don't see it, nor have I heard rumblings of anything in Marvel outside of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I would love it, but call that fiction right now.
Maybe we can do that as a show topic come fall with all the new consoles, whatnot. Talk about some
Yeah.
potential games. Yeah, so I'm with you 100% on the fiction. That makes me very sad. My hope is we never heard any rumors of this Spider-Man Marvel or Miles Morales game. So my hope is somewhere something's cooking up. But we were talking about this in our chat, the GUA chat with Travis as well. That I agree with your sentiment. It's just a plethora of stuff being left on the table as far as superhero games that we could be getting, but we're not getting. I think you're right that not only do the viewers have or the players have a bad experience with the superhero games, I think companies put them on and go, oh, look, like the returns aren't that good and they didn't review that good. Well, it's because you rushed them out and just made these like very poor, cheaply made like movie adaptation tie-ins, right? Like look at
Mhm.
Batman, look at Spider-Man. And that's why I don't know how good it's gonna be. I keep crossing my fingers. I'm one of the biggest champions for that Avengers game. I don't think it's gonna be as great as the Spider-Man or
Yeah.
Batman, but I want it to be good because that's another hit for us, right? If that can play well and review well, then that's a step in the right direction.
And you're right with the with that Avengers game. I think that's where their chips are right now, because I think that is a game they are. It's kind of like Destiny. There's going to be constant updates of that game,
Mhm.
and different ways. So I think that's why we haven't heard any new solo efforts, because that's where all their money is going right now, is that Avengers game.
So I hope the thing is we do have a Batman game coming in the near future. So my hope is, let's say the Avengers game, but this is at least good.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully.
hopefully, yeah,
Keep
hopefully, yeah.
hearing about it, but haven't seen it.
for 5 years it seems like it's been coming. But yeah, my hope is that the Avengers game is at least good and people enjoy it. You got Spider-Man, which is have Game of the Year contention. I imagine the sequel will have that as well. I trust that team. And then maybe, like I said, another Batman game, we could be on a roll, and hopefully companies will start to look at them. But that's why I'll say fiction for now. But out of all the ones we've done, man, I want this one to be. I want to be wrong on this one. I want
Oh
to.
yeah, same here.
The same way, and that's a good thing with E3. We never knew that Spider-Man game was coming. They just dropped it and said we were making it. Right? There's rumblings of potential Marvel game, but we didn't know exactly. So my hope is somewhere there's even been hints that, and this is why I'm hoping in 3 years that there's been a Daredevil game being worked on right now. I would say that it's just on speculation, but it was the president of Marvel Games and Troy Baker tweeting back and forth, and they said some comments that were a little like, this is strange. Like this seems like, or they could just be having some fun. So you never know. But I would love a Daredevil Arkham style game in that sort of sense. Man, that would be.
Oh, I'll do
Oh,
you one better. How about a Marvel Knights?
oh yeah, that'd be
And
great.
just have Ghost Rider, Daredevil,
Mhm.
Frank Castle, the Punisher, Blade, and Elektra.
Yeah.
Put them all in the same game and have kind of that kind of team going together.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1.
So
I would love it. So yeah, let's hope. So I have a question. So obviously this is a man who's been through a lot. James Gunn. I want to ask you, after Guardians 3 releases, will James Gunn direct a MCU film 5 years after that?
so he's taking a break, and then 5 years after that.
Well, within the 5 years, same thing. Would he be announced or would he be directing one? Because obviously he would have been doing that on before the whole firing happened, right? And then he went to Squad and everything. Will he be directing another, or be attached? Maybe I'll say this: will he be attached to another MCU project within 5 years between Guardians 3 and the 5 years? Because he's kind of said like, "Oh, Guardians 3 is my last contracted movie," so that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I think just how everything went down, how he got a taste of the other side at that point, and he these movies take a lot, not just for the actors' times, and we've seen how much time it's taking. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, all the main cast, like they can't do too much
Mm-hmm.
after that. Same thing directing. It's a lot. Directing any movie is a lot of time, but directing these types of movies takes a lot of time out of their schedule of what they can do. And James Gunn is known for his passion projects that he does. Brightburn being one of my recent favorites of his. Um, but that's time they don't have. So I call fiction on that. I think if he does go MCU, if it may involve quote unquote his characters of the Guardians, like kind of how, what was it, Favreau, or and I know James Gunn did have some either influence on the script or directing certain scenes with the Guardians in either Endgame or
Yeah.
Infinity War. Um, so it could be one of that, but I think this is his last outing. Um, and we won't see him back in the MCU. If we do, it'll be more than 5 years, but I think he's done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's yeah, because I didn't throw 10 years, because 10 years, that's a decade. That's so much that things could change. That's why I did the 5 years. Like it's still a ways away, but it's like plausible. But yeah, I'm fiction as well. More so of what you said at the beginning as far as the taste of the other side. He's said nothing but positive stuff about working at DC and having a
Hmm.
good time. He said it's the most fun he's had. So I think that yes, they
And,
did.
and and he's been classy about what happened with Marvel. He is, I mean, for someone that felt and Disney felt that he could have just gone off the deep end when he got fired, and then after that, he's been pretty classy about it.
He has, but I do think there is a part where he got fired and then everyone's happy together. They're working together now. But I do think there is kind of a part of him that maybe is feeling, and I have no knowledge. I'm taking a guess. But my theory, as far as he wants to come out, finish his trilogy, but might be like, okay, and now I want to get out of there because maybe I imagine there's still some sour grapes on his side. He's not public about it. He's been very classy about it. But you imagine that situation, there was hurt feelings on both sides, right? So maybe enough time has passed. I just feel that we may see him direct Guardians 3, and either he'll go off to do, like you said, more side projects, just a new IP, or he might just be dabbling in DC because If you believe him, he said DC gave him the Rolodex. They threw down the table and said, "You can direct whatever you want. Pick your project." And he picked Suicide Squad 2. So I think there's a chance that he directs more stuff with DC after this. And I think I'm never going to say he'll never direct into the MCU movie, but I think after Guardians 3, it'll be quite a while if that were to ever happen again. So I'm fiction as well. My last one is I'm asking this because, Scarlet Witch, WandaVision, she has her own show coming up. She's in Doctor Strange, but these are some very strange, difficult madness situations. So, will Scarlet Witch survive phase 4? Fact or fiction?
Yes. I say
Okay.
I say that they've I mean, for not only getting her own TV show and how directly she ties into Multiverse of Madness, there's a reason they're kind of building this character. I'd be very surprised just to have a one-off show. It's fine to have a one-off show. I don't know if they're ever planning for it to continue, but I think that she is our gateway. She will be one of our gateways to the X-Men universe. And I think that keeping that character around, there's a lot more to her than just what we've seen.
Yeah, it's tough. I think you're right, but I'll play contrarian and I'll say fiction because I
Mhm.
still think there is a chance that something in. I still think the chance to introduce mutants maybe has nothing to do with her.
Well,
And
what I mean, like I know our friend Greg says that the House of M
yeah,
idea, but I still think her. When I say gateway, I think like she's part of this whole kind of mutant based around how she was created and brought into this universe.
it's true, but I still think they could also do the route of they get rid of her, and that's where the ultimate or whatever the X-Men they want to do is just this is completely new or their style, and they are gonna go, we don't because I
Okay.
still don't think we're gonna get her with Magneto. We got my question, my answer to this will change the second we finish WandaVision because I want to see what route that goes.
Yeah.
But being so far out, I think there's a chance, and people have speculated it could be that she may be a semi-villain of Doctor Strange, and I just am wondering kind of what might be left for her. I don't want her to go. I love that character. I love them keeping characters alive and building upon them. I think Elizabeth Olsen's a very underrated actress. So I'm hoping with Doctor Strange and this show that people really get to see. I think in Infinity War and Endgame, she started to show that off, got more time to show it off. Even the few scenes she was in Endgame, there are some scene stealers. So I'm gonna go fiction just because I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion that they might have her just kind of excluded from the X-Men entirely. And then
Mhm.
after if they do that, that's my suspicion going fiction. If they do that, I think there just might not be a place for her with no Quicksilver. If Wanda or Vision doesn't make it out of that show and he's just gone completely, I could see, and even Hawkeye, who I think they're going to kind of sunset and give to Kate Bishop, who's like one of her friends in the series. I think there could be a chance that maybe there's just not much more for her to do, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not a death. Maybe it's
Well,
a break and a write out. But
and
that's
that's
why I'm taking
and
a harsh one for fact or fiction.
yeah, that's what kind of where I want to go. I don't think if she does kind of, I'd say more of a disappear. She's not dead, but
Yeah.
she did take a break in the comics for a while and brought it back. So I mean, that's fine if you at the time they can't figure out a good story. She just kind of goes off and they ride her out at that point. But with always the idea to come back, I don't want to go the she gets taken out because I don't see how that's happening with the character yet.
Yeah, I don't want it, but I wanted to throw a potential controversial one out there. So we'll see what the fans react next week. We'll hear from them. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll completely side the year or whatnot. But as always, yeah, we'll put them on Twitter to vote. And if you have some, let us know and we'll do those. So Chris, you ready to move on to our final segment of the day?
Yep, our final one, comic book club. We are looking at the
Mhm.
very first issue of the fans chose out of our choices, Civil War. So we're looking at issue one, and I have not read Civil War. I didn't even reread it when the new movie came out because it still was so fresh in my mind. I mean,
Oh
not
yeah.
saying I don't like rereading it, but it was just still so fresh even at that time. But this is probably my first rereading of Civil War in a long time.
Yeah, like I said, when we got this got chosen, I had read this for 2016. That was the last time, and yeah, I guess I forgot how quickly if we're going to the review here, and we're gonna do full spoilers for issues, I imagine, right? Because this is a comic book club,
Oh
so
yeah.
people, yeah. So if you've not read it, if you've never read it, I imagine you know the stories. But if you didn't get a chance, go read it and you can come back and follow us. But I'm actually just surprised every time I read it because I read it live when it happened, and then ever since then, I've always just read it together, right? I've never really read it like this issue by issue, so it's just been one concurrent story to me in my mind for years. I always taken aback at how much happens in that first issue. Tons of stuff happened. I thought it was a lot slower, and I thought it was a lot more build up, but from we go from the explosion to what we gonna do to the act, the sides are drawn happen very quickly, and not in a negative way because sometimes I think that can be rushing things can hurt it. I think this made sense because it's at a time of peril and everyone's freaking out. They don't know what to do. So I remembered it being slower, but no, it happens very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, just to, took out Stamford, Connecticut. I mean,
Yeah.
my home state at that point. I was like, oh, come on, why would we have to go there? But, it's just a shocking value. And, I think the conversation, not only the shock of what happened, it's just like these wannabe these heroes that are just trying to get ratings and things like that. And the conversation that Tony and Cap have about it, I mean, I'm amazed. Like, I think he kind of expressed it. How has this debate not happened more,
Yeah.
considering everything they've done? And I think the idea of a registration act. It's more amazing it hadn't happened earlier in this universe.
I agree. I think that's what was I think obviously the hook is, oh, you're gonna see Captain America, you're gonna see Iron Man face off and fight, and they're gonna have a bunch of heroes. When that was the hook as like just the comic book fanboy, and you're like, oh man, heroes fighting. Because I always
Yeah,
say this.
whose side are you on?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a great tagline, but I always say this. There's two things comic book fans love. It's heroes fighting each other and heroes having a team with villains. It's just like a trope that works every time because the heroes fighting, like, oh, this is something new, and the heroes and the villains teaming up, you go, oh, like anyone could turn on each other. So they have that hook of just like the kid in you of like, we're gonna see these people fight. But then when you get in the actual comic book and you read what they're going for, and also we talk about the movie and this, and it's the thing, they have the core issue the same, but very different ways we get there. And I like this as far as like you said, there's this reality stars, the new warriors, and they're trying to get ratings. And that's why they even go into the house. They even say, hey, this is too dangerous. This might be above us. But no, imagine the numbers we could get. And that could, again, it's kind of what is the best thing with comic books that stand the test of time is themes that are relevant throughout. And this is more relevant in this generation because in the 60s and whatnot, like people had news and stuff, but in this generation of social media, even
Mhm.
now, social media, TikToks, like it's still relevant of people trying to grow their fan base, right? People do it all the time. That's something we have to do as podcasts. You promote yourself because you want people to listen. And it's a very, as far as this culture, it still reigns true. So I think it's a great setup. And it is, I agree with you, the fact we didn't get it sooner, I was for the, oh yeah, it's these people fighting, but when it was like, no, we're going to lock you up if you don't sign these and reveal your identity, it was like, wow, like, yeah, why hasn't this happened? And that's why it was such a great, it was one of those like, how come no one's thought about this yet? Like, it's such a great idea. And obviously you kind of have, I think this does have shades of Watchmen in a way, but Watchmen was a much different take. But that's the only other time where I thought it's a similar kind of storyline. So I remember reading and being like, this is great. And it kind of was, they got you in with the cool covers and the who sides you on, but you stayed. And
Mhm.
I think what made it was a classic story was in even this first issue, what they set up is the ideologies. And I think the last point I'll make is I think as when you first were getting the concept, and everybody said this, but it was that you would think Captain America and Tony would be flipping positions, right? These characters notoriously in the past have kind of gone the ways of the other side. So to see Captain America rail against the government, go, this is not right, and see Tony kind of pepper up and do his, Dark Knight Returns act, and it's set up, right? It's set up with that woman confronting him at the funeral. And I think there's just the stakes and character motivations they nail in just this first issue.
Yeah, and I think it's very well paced. I think one of the big things, and they kind of focused on it when Nitro goes off. The epicenter is at an elementary school, and
Yeah,
so they got that. That's why it's even more
it
like
hits
that. Something
hard.
has to happen. It's harder. Kids were killed with
Mhm.
this, and the heroes that were there didn't take anything responsible. Like you said, with the woman spitting in his face, like you could have done something. You could have done, and then seeing I like that we see the after effects on other heroes, Human Torch getting assaulted at
Yeah.
that point. I mean, that was even more shocking. It's just like, and this is what society does. This is what we've
Mhm.
seen happen, unfortunate as it does. This is a terrible thing to have happen. And then just you see the debates amongst the heroes saying, well, I think this and I think that. And at the time, even Spider-Man's like, I don't think this is the greatest idea,
Yep.
hints of things to come. But it's but I think what are the like you said, I think the most thing that was so shocking was the confrontation between Hill and Captain America.
Yeah.
And as he started saying, as he even says in the movie, like we can't have a government tell us like who is good, who is bad, because he's even seen I can't trust the government to do that because they have their own interest at heart. I'm looking after what's best for everyone, not just I may say Captain America, but he's more human. He's going to look at what's best for the what's right for humanity versus just America.
Well, and I love that scene too because that scene is it's brutal because he really has to fight his way out of there. But there's that first panel when he starts punching and fighting his way out. The way they draw his face and expression, it does not look like it's an action. Like here we go, he's kicking ass. It feels like oh, like I have to do this and I don't want to do this at all. And clear that's the way, but just the way he's drawn, it just shows that these are people, even though they have their guns pointed at them, even though they're listening to Hill and they won't listen to what he's saying and saying, "Hey, this is not the way we go." Like he calls her out, like, "Is this what we're really doing right now? Like at this time, this is what we're gonna do." And she goes, "Well, yeah, this this is the way it has to be." But it just looks like he does not want to do this whatsoever, and he's
No,
hurting
no,
people
he
that
really doesn't.
yeah, he's hurting people he's probably worked with, people he could be friendly with. But it's just it's either that or you are locked up and you're done for. So it's just right away creates this, and it jumps from, and that's where it makes kind of that side, which if anyone doesn't figure out, I'm totally on Cap's team. I'm always on Cap's side with this one because it just that it escalates so quickly. There's not much of a conversation between him and Hill. The fact that he has to jump out of that shield base and run out, and it's very similar to Winter Soldier, that kind of escape scene of him jumping out the window. It's kind of fun parallels. It's great to see now, like when you read these and then you think about the movies, like oh, it's just great to see just like the love that the movies did give these comics. And it is very much like the Winter Soldier scene where he's just trying to get out of there with the motorcycle, everything like that. But it is just it goes from hey, what it literally goes from hey, do you think the rest of them are going to join us? And he's like, what do you mean join us? And then right away, the second he gives any intuition that he is not with them, they turn on him because it's just they got to lock him up and they got to act fast because he's Captain America. And even what you're talking about with the funeral scene, I love that. Also, we get the set with Tony, but there's just this one panel where it's zoomed out from the door's perspective and you see Tony, but then you see the pictures of like the hundreds of kids. It's not
Mhm.
just a funeral for one, it's hundreds of them. And that really puts in perspective because obviously the death of one kid is terrible. But then when they kind of like not double down, they just like 100 quadruple all in, just show you this memorial of all these children. And it makes sense of why Tony would have a change of heart. Finally, this guy who is pretty rigid, who's pretty selfish at times, and gonna always my way or the highway goes, we do got to change. And obviously, that's something that the movie, that funeral scene is very much like that scene in the movie as well, right? Where he gets confronted at the Stark Expo and she has the picture instead of the spit. So again, fun parallels, but a great adaptation. But whether it's that scene with Hill or that scene again, like you're talking about the funeral, just kind of set up the motivations very well.
Yeah, it's one of my choices in episode 1 for an adaptation. I mean, this story has consequences as a result of Secret War.
Mhm.
That's why Nick Fury is no longer in charge of Shield because of the consequences that happen at the end of Secret War. That's why Maria Hill is acting Shield commander. I did like the little thing, Captain America is still awesome and still pro thing. He's not going to crash a jet. He's going to quietly land it and then take out the guy for burgers at that point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, they know for the government to say they're now going after Captain America, they already know the optics of that is not going to look good because he has not done anything outside of just saying no to something. It brings the question. It's like, it's okay to disagree,
Yeah.
but to go to this extent, I mean, there are reasons why at that point, but not to, I mean, I mean, they're just, McNiven is just, I've always loved McNiven's pencils. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I love the way he draws Cap so much. I love the scales, like, I'm like a lot of people,
yep.
that scale look is oh, it's beautiful.
But, that last page seeing, who is on this kind of side. We already knew Iron Man, but seeing, Mr. Fantastic and Hank Pym as already saying, the lines are starting to be drawn right here, there,
Mhm.
right now. And so it's a great way to end the issue of just saying, okay, we've got a hint of, and that's the idea of the Watcher coming in
Yeah.
and say, that's always like something big's about to happen
And
at that
Strange is
point.
like, "And it's not good, though."
Nope. Nope, it's
Yeah.
not good, but, what a w that's it's always like you always have to hit, like, either a new show's got their pilot episode or a new epic series. They did not pull any punches with this, and, like I said, this is just one of my favorite all-time epic events that
Yeah.
Marvel has done.
Yeah, no, I agree with you as far as like it relating to a pilot. It has to be like that, right? I think it hooks you and then it ends in that I need more. And I remember when this ended, I needed more. And I think you showed up, but just a few other things to show in my notes I had. I love the scene where it is all the heroes talking, but it's literally they go to almost like 20 different heroes. Just they're just saying one line, but you're getting their perspective. It's not just Cap and Tony and maybe like Spider-Man, a few of the popular ones. You get Daredevil, you get Hank Pym in there, you get Doctor Strange, you get a bunch of people, and they're just putting in their 2 cents of why we should or shouldn't do this. So I thought that was really good. And the other touch is because this is a very political comic, and that's where I could see
Hmm.
maybe some people not liking it. But it's a quote that I always go back to. Neil Druckmann, he's a guy that does. He's the game director on Last of Us, and with Last of Us 2, they're covering some new themes. And someone tweeted at him and said, "Hey, if this is a political game, I'm not going to play it. I want to be like the last one." And he said, "Everything I write or produce is political, so maybe you should just stop yourself now." And I think it's the same way as like it's very subtle subtext, but the first person in this comic to bring up there could be an issue is Goliath, and I think that is because he's
Hmm.
the black man
Yeah.
because he brings up things are about to get worse. You see the way they treat the X-Men; they are going to profile us. They're going to come after us one after another. There's going to be picketing, everything like that. And
Yeah,
I
because
honestly think
this is post House of M.
yeah, and I honestly think that's on purpose because obviously you look at the history of what has happened, he would know and he is educated on that and he's had to deal with that for his people and he's seeing what the X-Men are going through now. So I think that's very deliberate. And obviously this comic's very political. And then my last note as far as just like with the X-Men and that scene I love where the X-Men and Wolverine there are here to help out and there's that mom with her child and there's a sentinel standing over them and the child's like, why is this robot there? And she goes, oh, they're the good guys. They're to protect us from the X-Men, and the X-Men are there helping out. They're with every other hero trying to make sure they can save as many lives, whether it's just moving rubble, checking on people. But no, they're still just looked down upon. And also, like you said, it's after House of M, but still, it is that fact. Like, no, they're still considered this kind of almost scum of the earth, like the bottom of the bottom. And again, just even in that first those panels, just lots of good setup with the X-Men and Goliath of just their mindset. So it's just every panel and page. It's not really like there's not a wasted not some in some comics you get that where it's like, oh, some nice art, but like, what are we learning story wise here? I'm always down for nice art, but eventually does it go to a point where it's, oh, I this was 22 issues and I feel like only 3 of them really let me know something. This feel like every issue, whether it's the story, the pencils, the art, it tells you something about what's happening in the future here.
No, I agree, and I think I think can't remember if this was one of those few event ones where I collected all the tie-ins, and
There's
I
a lot.
yeah, there is a lot. I think way more. If you are a subscriber to Marvel Unlimited, they have the complete series
Yeah.
in the reading order to do. So if you have that and you want to read along with it, we're not going to be covering the tie-ins, but I highlighted just I'd say a majority of the tie-ins not just flesh out the events pre and post the main issues, but also
Hmm.
give you different perspectives that's going on around them and bring things in because they are going to refer back to it. Because if you didn't read, if you're just coming into this and didn't realize, oh my gosh, Spider-Man's got a whole different costume. Well, there were 3 issues before with Spider-Man of kind of
Yeah.
gives that story, but a total of looks to be 97 97 issues that compile, and this also looks at the after
Hmm.
effects of Civil War.
Yeah.
97 issues. So, if listeners out there, if you want to kind of, like I said, we won't be covering the tie-ins. We may refer to them, but it can kind of give you a bigger perspective of how massive this event was.
Well, yeah, this might be some people's first time, right? Many of my friends have seen the movie, but they've still never read the comic book. So maybe you'll read this and like you said, oh, why is that suit? There's a story. I think it's one of those comic book crossovers and events are very hard to pull off. There's been many that have this is the next big event, and it's just kind of whether it's story or whether it's the execution of the event doesn't hit. This is up there with like a Crisis, in my opinion, something like that, where it was a massive event, but they pulled it off and it just flew it was very fluid, and it's hard to do to get that many writers and characters together. It's something that seems, we've had so many crossovers, people might just be like, oh, it's just a bunch of characters together. It's not though. To make it that, like I said earlier, that fluid, it's a tough task to pull off. And I think even the 97 issues, I've not read all those back again. I read them kind of like you back in the day when this was all going on because I was enthralled with the storyline. But one day in my life again, I'd like to do the trek of reading them all through Marvel Unlimited because it's a great app. But yeah, I
Mhm.
would definitely recommend if it's your first time, give those a shot. Because yeah, and then if you don't like one, lots of them you could skip. Like if you're reading one and go, oh, this isn't really for me. The crucial stuff's in the main story. So
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's issue number one. So,
Hmm.
so listeners, if you hopefully you've enjoyed our first attempt at a book club. I know it's just Travis and I talking, but yeah, let us know what you think when the episode releases. Your thoughts at that point. We'll definitely read them on air. And so you've got 7 days to read issue number two. So
Seven
we'll continue
days.
7 days. Yeah, 7 issues, 7 days.
But the good thing is just another comic book. It's not a
Yep.
scary ring girl coming through your TV. So
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. So, but yeah, another great episode, man.
Yeah.
I'll I'll shake your hand, pat you on the back. Good job.
Exactly. Yeah. Volume 3 is in the books, and next week, next week we'll do another topic unless there's some other news at break. But if not, we'll probably throw another fan boat. But like we said, just head to our Twitter. We'll have lots of stuff there to interject in. And yeah, I know you're probably just gonna throw it to me, so I'll just say you can find me at Travis B. Snail on Twitter to break the middleman. You can find me at GeekVerse. Right now, we're doing, even though it got delayed a few weeks, we're doing a Christopher Nolan retrospective. We're watching every single every single Christopher Nolan movie, so that's been fun to look back on. And then I'm here guesting on some shows and Marvel Alliance every Monday.
Yeah, no, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter,
Mhm.
Marvel at Marvel A Podcast, and me personally at Chris Balga. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. Again, you want to follow the network itself at GUA Pod Network. And, we always appreciate you all tweeting at us, giving, if you really like the network. We hope you do. We hope you're enjoying the shows, all of them. But if you don't, some of them, please, if you can give us a 5-star or any kind of star review, giving us some sort of feedback, we helps us get out there more. You can find me on World's Finest True Believers. You can find me on Super Civil Servants podcast on Friday nights. And but yeah, no, another great episode. Always great talking to Travis. And thank you all for listening. And as always, listeners, Excelsior, True Believers.